Welcome back to the FTN NFL Team Preview Series. I'm your host, Mike Randle. Follow me on X at Randle Rand. And today we go to one of the teams that I am incredibly high on, and that's the Green Bay Packers. And the only person I talked to was here last year, give us great insight, Andy Herman on X at Andy Herman NFL, the owner of the Pack a Day podcast, writer for Packer Report 66. Andy, we're going to kick it off. I think it's Jordan Love's season from week 11 to week 18 last year. He's the fantasy QB2, just an outstanding performance into the playoffs. I say it carries over. What say you?
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch Jordan Love having the full season under his belt already. And with all of these weapons he has at his disposal, listen, Matt LaFleur's sort of superpower is finding mismatches. And he now has every single possible weapon he could want at his disposal at wide receiver. He's got 6 different guys that do all different things. Guys like Jayden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, 2 tight ends in Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft who do different things, a running back in Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd, and even AJ Dillon who do all different things. If you need a power back, they have it. If you need a speed back, they have it. They have everything that you would possibly want to find mismatches all over the field. And there's been a lot of talk this offseason of, well, Green Bay doesn't have that true number 1 wide receiver. Maybe they don't. But guess what? They have pieces all over the field that can beat you in a variety of different ways. And it utilizes that skill set of Matt LaFleur to find those mismatches and have the pieces he needs to generate those mismatches. And that's what we saw in the second half of last season with Jordan Love, was exploiting that, not necessarily focusing on one receiver that he had to get 15 to 20 targets to. It was finding the open receiver, going through the progression of the play and finding those mismatches. That's what worked so well a season ago. And I expect it to only be better with the addition of Josh Jacobs, all of these wide receivers and tight ends being a year older, and Jordan Love remaining now in complete control of this offense and taking over from what we saw in the second half of last season.
Yeah, we'll go to the running backs in a minute. Let's go to that wide receiver group. That's what I wanted to touch on. Love Jayden Reed, big-time player, had a great rookie season. I think the key is Christian Watson, because the hamstring issue I know is a problem. They seem to figure it out. He is as efficient as it comes. When he's on the field, he's dynamite. Wicks played well. Doubs was incredible. Talk about this group and what you possibly think is the target share order. Musgrave's great as well, got injured toward the end of the year. Talk about it and sort it out for us here, because like you said, I don't know if there's one guy, but I'm curious how you think it will end up at the end of the year in the order, because I kind of think it's Watson, assuming health.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've been asked this a couple of times. If I had to put, a bet on it today of who gets the most targets, who has the most receptions, I would probably go Jayden Reed, simply because I think he has the most defined role within this offense as kind of that slot gadget guy, is somebody that they tend to generate some touches for a little bit more often, and is kind of a go-to guy on third downs. Like, he just consistently gets open, find ways to uncover, and is obviously going to be a go-to for Jordan Love. So I think of all the receivers, he, to me, has the most defined role, where as the outside guys, it could be Watson, it could be Doubs, it could be Reed even a little bit, it could be Wicks on the outside. I think you could see a little bit more rotation on the outsides. That being said, when you said, Christian Watson is kind of the key, I also agree with that, because you have to have some receiver or some player that has some gravity to them. And what I mean by that is somebody in this case, specifically Christian Watson, that can run those 9 routes, can get down the field, and they're taking that corner with them. They're taking a safety over the top with them as well, which opens things up for the Romeo Doubs, the Dontavian Wicks, the Luke Musgrave, the Tucker Crafts, and makes it so that the things are a little bit easier for them. And when Christian Watson has been out on the field, he's been that guy. Luke Musgrave a little bit too, with his speed up the seam, can bring some safeties his way as well. But you have to have a couple guys that can do that. And you have to be afraid of Christian Watson's speed, Luke Musgrave's speed up the middle. When you have that, like I said, it opens things up for everyone else. This offense is different when Christian Watson is on the field. If they want to reach their peak, they need healthy Christian Watson for as many games as they can possibly get him. That has not happened in the first 2 seasons of his career. They spent the offseason trying to figure out why that was. Apparently there was an imbalance in strength between his left leg and his right leg. Hopefully they have that figured out, and hopefully this is the healthiest we've seen Christian Watson in his career so far.
I think that's perfect analysis with the Jayden Reed. And again, if someone's going to hang 8 for 202, I think it's Christian Watson. Great call there. Let's move to the backfield. Josh Jacobs comes in. Obviously, touchdown machine, consistency, veteran, can have those big performances. But what I'm reading, of course, on your Twitter feed, what I'm seeing here, Marshawn Lloyd really impressing. So how do you think that sorts out? How's AJ Dillon sort of coming off a frustrating year a little bit? How the backfield touches are going to work out? Is it going to be Jacobs, or could Jacobs and Lloyd be working together here?
Yeah, I think Jacobs is going to be your primary guy, but it's a little bit different because this is our first time in the Matt LaFleur era where it's not Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones, with both Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur, they've always remained hesitant to give him that 25, 30 touch day. They've always kind of scaled back his touches just because of his build and his body type. They have a Josh Jacobs now. It's different. They've got a younger, more physical running back than what they had the last couple of seasons with Aaron Jones. And maybe they have a little bit more propensity to use him as, I don't want to say bell cow because it just basically doesn't exist in the NFL anymore, but maybe a little bit more than what we saw from Aaron Jones. But that being said, I still expect them to utilize two running backs. Here's the big question that will have to be answered in training camp and in preseason. Marshawn Lloyd had basically two kind of catastrophic issues in college that could potentially keep him off the field: pass protection and fumbling. He fumbled 8 times in minimal touches. It ended up equating to like 1 every 40 touches in college. He fumbled the ball. That clearly will not get the job done in the NFL. He will not see the field if that continues. It hasn't been an issue in OTAs or in mini camps. We haven't seen it, but if that would sort of rear its ugly head, that would limit his touches. The other thing, when you have a Brett Favre, an Aaron Rodgers, a Jordan Love, one of the first things that they look for out of their running backs is pass pro. You basically cannot get on the field if you can't pass pro. So it was something that Lloyd struggled with a little bit in college. He's going to have to be asked to do it more in the NFL. If he can show that he can hang on to the football and he can pass pro, there is 0% doubt that he is more dynamic and more game-changing than what A.J. Dillon has ever shown in his career. And I think he will easily surpass Dillon. But if he can't, Dillon's pass pro is one of the things that he's best at. And you could see Dillon snipe some of those snaps simply because of the, ball control and not fumbling. And also because he's so good in pass protection.
Yeah, excellent point. Listen, great stuff. Andy, one more question. We'll get you out of here. Talk about the defensive changes, new defensive coordinator. And this is relevant here because if you look at Green Bay's schedule, I was going over this for FTN. You win that game against Philly in Brazil, you have a series of teams here: Indy at home, Tennessee, Minnesota. Rams away is going to be tough. Arizona, you could really get off to a strong start here. Put some distance before you get to the back end of the schedule at Detroit, at Seattle, New Orleans, at Minnesota, Chicago. So a lot of division games late. Talk about the defense, the changes, going to a 4-3, and of course the strength of schedule. How you think this is going to turn out here for Green Bay?
Yeah, this is a night and day different defense than what we saw from Joe Barry over the past few seasons. Joe Barry, more passive style defense, keep everything in front of you, 2 safeties very deep, kind of build that shell and that umbrella over the top and try to limit the big plays, but very limited blitzing, not a ton of prep. Like, this is going to be complete 180 from what we saw. We're going to see a lot more man-to-man coverage. We're going to see a lot more blitzing. We're going to see defenders just pinning their ears back and getting after the quarterback. 2AT. Of course, every player that's going to be asked isn't going to say like, yeah, not really a fan of this new defense, but the overwhelming support, like above and beyond your wildest dreams of what players could be saying, they are through the roof with what Jeff Hafley has brought. They are completely bought in, which you can't win any games in June, but you can win the players over in June. And that is what Jeff Hafley has done so far. They are all insanely excited to play in this defense. There's going to be pros and cons with any defense. I'm sure they're going to be more susceptible to some screens and some draws and some counters, all those sort of things by playing this style of football, maybe some more explosive plays down the field, but they are going to be aggressive. They are going to be attacking, and they're going to try to be the tone setters. You're going to see more single high safety. You're going to see guys with their hand in the dirt rather than standing up in that 3-4. It is going to be all the way different. And like I said, players have been 100% on board so far. I can't wait to see it in action.
Yeah, folks, Green Bay's going to have a big year. I'm very high on them. It's funny how this works here, Andy. Remember years ago, people were criticizing the Jordan Love pick. Now this year, you have the Falcons quoting Green Bay on why they should take Michael Penix here. Appreciate a few minutes. No one better with the Packers than Andy Herman on X at Andy Herman NFL, owner of Pack-A-Day podcast, writer for Packer Report 66. Sir, thank you so much. We'd love to check back in as we get into July. NFL season here, it's coming. I think it's going to be a big one for Green Bay.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.